I was the last tenant to leave. That's what the landlord said when I handed him my keys. "You're the last one. Once you're gone, the place will be empty." He said it casually, but his words left a strange, hollow feeling in my chest. For 3 years, I'd lived in that building, surrounded by the sounds of life, neighbors laughing, TVs humming through thin walls, footsteps echoing in the hallways. Now, every unit was empty, every sound swallowed by silence. I'd spent the past week packing, but the stillness felt heavier with each passing day. Something about being the only person left unnerved me, though I told myself it was just my imagination. Until the night I heard the knocking. It came from the other side of the wall, faint at first like someone tapping softly. I paused mid-boxing up my books, straining to listen. Knock, knock, knock. 3 distinct taps, perfectly spaced. The apartment next door had been empty for months, its windows dark and its door bolted shut. I knew because I'd passed it every day on my way out. I knocked back, more out of reflex than curiosity. A second passed, then 2, then knock, knock, knock. I laughed nervously, brushing it off. Probably just pipes or the building settling, I thought. But as I tried to focus on packing, the knocks continued, growing louder, more insistent. By midnight, I couldn't take it anymore. I grabbed my flashlight and headed out into the hallway. The air was stale, heavy with the scent of dust and old paint. My footsteps echoed too loudly, and every creak of the floorboards made me jump. When I reached the door to the next unit, my pulse quickened. I raised my hand to knock but froze. The door was ajar. I pushed it open slowly, the hinges groaning in protest. My flashlight beam cut through the darkness, illuminating an empty living room. The apartment was identical to mine in layout, but everything about it felt off. The air was colder, the shadows deeper. It smelled faintly of mildew and something metallic, like rust. "Hello?" I called, my voice trembling. No response. I moved deeper inside, sweeping the light across the walls. My breath caught when I saw it, faint scratch marks trailing along the plaster, starting low and rising high, as though someone or something had clawed its way up. A sound behind me made me spin around, heart hammering. The door had closed. I don't know why I didn't run. Maybe I told myself it was the wind or a draft, anything to keep from panicking. But as I stood there, staring at the door, I heard it again, knocking. Knock, knock, knock. This time, it wasn't coming from the walls. It was coming from the bedroom. I swallowed hard, forcing my feet to move. Each step toward the closed bedroom door felt heavier than the last. The hallway seemed longer than it should have been, the distance stretching unnaturally. When I reached the door, I hesitated. The knocking had stopped, replaced by a low, rhythmic thudding, like something heavy being dragged across the floor. With a shaking hand, I turned the knob and pushed the door open. The room was empty, save for a single chair in the center, facing away from me. I took a cautious step forward, my flashlight beam trembling as it illuminated the chair. There was something on it. No, someone. It was a man, slumped forward, his head hanging at an unnatural angle. His skin was pale, his clothes stained with something dark and wet. My breath caught in my throat as I realized I recognized him. It was the landlord. Before I could process what I was seeing, the door slammed shut behind me. The flashlight flickered and died, plunging the room into darkness. Then I heard it. Breathing. Slow, raspy, right behind me. I froze, every nerve screaming at me to run, but my body wouldn't obey. The breathing grew louder, closer, until I could feel it against the back of my neck. "Why did you come here?" A voice whispered, low and guttural. I couldn't answer. My throat felt like it had closed up. "You shouldn't have stayed," it hissed. "This place isn't empty." Suddenly the flashlight flickered back to life. I spun around, but there was no one there. Just the chair, now empty, the landlord's body gone. The walls were closing in, the scratch marks multiplying, twisting into shapes that looked like faces, screaming, pleading faces. I bolted for the door, yanking it open and stumbling into the hallway. My apartment felt a mile away, but I didn't stop running until I was inside. The deadbolt locked behind me. I didn't sleep that night. The next morning, I went to the leasing office to ask about the landlord, only to find out he died 3 days ago. Heart attack in his office. When I returned to my apartment, there was a note taped to my door. In the same jagged handwriting as the scratch marks, it read, "You're the last one now. Don't leave the room empty."